Get pucked. Most people are looking at this as an absolute grand slam of a trade for Kent Hughes. So he brings in Casey DeSmith, right? Now, Casey DeSmith's underlying numbers are actually not bad. This is not a bad goalie, right? He has pretty much been the quintessential backup in Pittsburgh, and they've had a lot of Tristan Jarry got hurt for a long period of time, and so
I was going to say that, right? I was going to say that Casey DeSmith, while he was the quote-unquote backup, because Tristan Jarry's been getting hurt so often,
he's played a lot.
He's played a lot.
Now, look at the team in front of him. Okay, now Pittsburgh obviously didn't make the playoffs last season, which was the first time in a long time, but realistically, they have some good players that are up there. The defense is starting to now with Erik Karlsson, we can make another debate about that, but frankly, this is a very offensive defenseman, so the defensive aspect of their defense is still not super great, but I digress. Casey DeSmith is not a 1A goalie.
No.
I don't think so. I think we can all agree that he's not a 1A goalie. Now, that said, could we also say the same about Montembeault and Allen at this point? Are they all not 1As?
Montreal doesn't have a bona fide number one goalie, but I've said this in the past that when you look throughout the NHL, there's maybe about 5, if you want to call them elite number one goalies, and then there's a huge drop off. So there's a lot of goaltenders out there that are listed as number ones for their team, but are really, in my opinion, more of a backup goalie. You know, we're in a weird era when it comes to goaltending right now. But when you look at Montreal's goaltending situation, now with Casey DeSmith being there, you're looking. It's like they're going to play by committee, and I think Montreal is going to keep 3 goaltenders.
You think they're going to?
I could be wrong.
Yeah,
I think they're going to carry. I think they're going to carry 3 goaltenders, at least for the foreseeable future, and then they're going to see what's going to happen there. And I think Casey DeSmith brings a little bit of a safety net in case Primeau does get claimed on waivers once they send them down, because they're not going to send down Montembeault, they're not going to send down Allen. And it's like, what are you going to do with Primeau at that point, right? So if Primeau doesn't make it to the team right out of camp and doesn't wow everybody, then he's going to go through waivers, and I do believe a team's going to claim him. So if they lose him, then what happens? At least you can say, okay.
Let me ask you this: what are you talking making the team out of camp? You think he has a possibility of taking the spot of Montembeault or Allen?
If Primeau comes out all of a sudden, he's stellar. What are you going? They're going to make space for him. And because the Montreal's got the goalies that they have, other than Allen, have very digestible contracts, they can be moved. They can be moved. But I think Primeau's gonna come out of camp as being a team? No, I don't. But there's anything's possible. So I'm saying if, right? And if they do lose him, then with DeSmith they still have depth on the goaltending ranks. They're not screwed at that point.
Well, let me ask you this now, right? So the fact that DeSmith comes in and Jeff Petrie back to, I'll bottle it together in the same sort of question. Do you believe that either of those guys will wear a Habs jersey? Well, Jeff Petrie again and Casey DeSmith, or could both those guys be flipped again before the start of the season, where the roster really hasn't changed? Kent Hughes made room now for his young guys to come up and ascend and take a spot, and he used the assets he got back in facilitating to get more, perhaps draft capital or something else. Or do you really think that they're going to play?
I'll say this. I think Jeff Petrie has the best chance of being moved before the season starts, mainly because there's teams out there that still are looking for a right-handed defenseman or looking for a defenseman, period. As for Casey DeSmith, I think he's going to be wearing a Habs jersey. And the reason for that is because if you saw during the offseason, all the teams pretty much addressed their goaltending situation. So there's not many spots available out there for Casey DeSmith for now. But, it's happened where in preseason or at the start of the season, injuries happen and they happen to be long-term. And it's the teams that, typically don't want to lose ground in the standings right off the bat. So do I think it's possible that Casey DeSmith could be moved at the start of the season? Yeah, but I think he's likely to wear a Habs jersey.
Is it more likely DeSmith move or Allen?
Well, and I was going to bring that up, so I'm happy you did. I think there's a chance. The only reason why it might why it might not happen is because Allen is a leader on the roster, and his cap hits a little high for what he brings to the team now, and it's for 2 years. Right? So, do I think that if they move Allen and decide to keep Montembeault and DeSmith, it's a bad play? No, I don't think it's a bad play. In fact, it kind of makes sense when you look at Allen's age and his cap and whatnot, and maybe he wants another chance at on a contending team. But I just don't think any of the goaltenders are going to move. Anyway, the ones with a cap of 1.1 million and up are going to move now. It'd be closer to the deadline that you might see them move. But Jeff Petrie, like I said, there are teams that might be looking to bolster their defense just before the season starts.
Get pucked.